I'm going back to my parents' place for a while. If that's the case, don't bother coming back. Here's the divorce papers. They're already filled out. Take them and get out. That's what my husband said as he threw the divorce papers at me. So I took them and promptly went to the city hall to submit them. However, he would come to regret this divorce. My name is Jessica, 28 years old. I have been married for a year to my husband, who is 2 years older than me. His name is Bob. Before I got married, I was a freelance graphic designer working from home. Bob works in sales department. I met Bob 2 years ago when I was down after breaking up with my boyfriend at the time. A friend introduced us. At the time, I didn't intend to date anyone, but Bob, who had fallen in love with me at first sight after seeing my picture shown by our mutual friend, asked me to date him, saying, "I don't mind starting as friends." During several outings with Bob, I was touched by his kindness, and before I knew it, I fell in love with him. As soon as I conveyed feelings, we started dating, and 6 months into dating, Bob proposed to me and we got married. Jessica, you're a lucky woman. After all, you've been chosen by me, a popular guy who's the ace salesperson at the company and who is chased by many girls. Bob often said this to me after we got married. Indeed, as Bob said, he was the ace of the sales department, performed well, and I thought he was handsome. However, I couldn't help but wonder about him boasting about it, but at the time, it seemed endearing to me. Love is indeed blind. I love my confident, kind, and manly husband. We didn't have children yet, but I was happy spending time with Bob. However, a year after marrying Bob, I had a problem. "Hey Jessica, when will I get to see my grandchild?" Yes, my mother-in-law. Since we got married, my mother-in-law started saying, "Get pregnant soon," every time we met. Since my in-laws' house was within a 15-minute drive, we went there for dinner several times a month, and I had to hear the same thing several times a month. We're still young, so we thought we'd spend some more time together. Then my mother-in-law let out a big sigh, loud enough for us to hear. "You say you're young, but you'll be 30 soon. I give you a year to watch and see. That's enough, right? You should start having babies soon or it'll be tough for you too. When I married into this family, I got pregnant right away. Besides, you're just playing around at home, aren't you?" Perhaps because there were few jobs you could do from home in the past, my mother-in-law has never recognized my job as a job since before I got married. Besides, the reason we haven't had a child yet is because Bob insists that he wants to spend more time just the two of us. No, that's not true. I work properly at home. I've been telling you that I earn almost as much as Bob. Isn't Bob just covering for you? You're just playing around. That's not true. Bob, say something. Huh? Oh, Bob never talks in situations like this. According to him, there's no use in arguing with Mom. She doesn't listen to what I have to say, so it's a waste of time. Just let her talk and don't take it too seriously. Even though I'm in trouble, he could stand up for me a little. He just lounges on the couch, fiddling with his phone and barely acknowledging the conversation. "Well, you can play all you want, but since you have plenty of time, you should fulfill your duties as a wife. If you don't have a baby within this year, I'll have to ask you to leave Bob," she says. What? It's simple. Bob is the only child in our family. We need a daughter-in-law who can provide an heir. My husband doesn't lift a finger to help me while I'm being criticized like this. I'm so angry about this that when we get home, I confront him. "Why didn't you say anything back there? You're the one who keeps saying we should wait to have children. You need to stand up to your mother." I'm sorry. Mom's just old-fashioned. She can't get past the idea that you should have a baby right after marriage. I get that, but you could at least say something to your mother. Like I said, Mom's stubborn. She won't change her mind no matter what I say. I've told you before, Jess, just nod along and it'll be fine. But your mother, she said if I don't get pregnant this year, she'll force us to get divorced. It's okay, she's just bluffing. Hey, not because of what your mother said, but I actually want to start thinking about having a baby with you. Why are you so against it? I'm not against it. I just want to spend more time with just the two of us. Once we have a baby, you'll be all over the baby and we won't have time for me, he said, hugging me. I find his attitude cute, so I hug him back. However, even though he says these things at home, he never supports me when we visit his parents' house. After that, his mother started calling me every day to ask if I was pregnant yet. I was tired of living like this. I never told her about this because I didn't want to make my husband look bad, but I've reached my limit. I finally told her that Bob doesn't want children yet, but she just dismissed it. That's because you're making Bob say that. There's no way Bob would say something like that. That's not true. Bob is the one who said he wants to wait. I want a baby too. Oh, really, Bob? Is that true? No, that's not true. I mean, I do want us to just be the two of us for a while longer, and Jessica's okay with that too, he said. I was dumbfounded by his words. Of course I agree with Bob's desire to wait, but conveying that to his mother would make it seem like I lied about wanting to have a baby. And sure enough, his mother glared at me after hearing his words. See, you agreed too. Now please hurry up and have a baby. Don't keep us waiting. And in the end, I was the one who was blamed. When I got home and asked Bob why he had spoken to me in such a way, he responded, "I'll correct it next time," but never mentioned it again. Lately, I've been feeling quite nervous, wondering why I have to endure this. But there was a reason why Bob didn't want children. The truth came to light on a certain day off. That day, I was home alone. Bob has a day each month where he goes out with friends, and that day was today. At first, I was just lounging around at home, but I had plans to visit my in-laws in the evening. And I was feeling down, knowing that my mother-in-law would nag at me again. And since Bob wasn't around, I decided to take a break and go shopping. A little bit of shopping on my own for the first time in a while cleared my mind, and I was about to take a break at a cafe. This cafe had a terrace, and there I saw something I couldn't believe. Yes, there was Bob, an unfamiliar woman, and a baby. I quickly hid so Bob wouldn't see me. Bob and the woman seemed to be having a good conversation, and then suddenly Bob picked up the baby and began to gently soothe it with a smile. I couldn't understand what was happening in front of me. My mind went blank, and I kept watching. He said he was going out with friends, but was this woman one of his friends? But since we got married, he introduced me to all of his friends, and I've never met the woman in front of me. Then Bob kissed the baby on the cheek. Seeing Bob look so lovingly at an unknown baby after saying he doesn't want a child with me hurt my heart. The thought that he said he didn't want a child with me because he didn't really love me came to mind, and before I knew it, my vision was blurred with tears. Could he be cheating on me? The thought made my chest tighten even more. I took a photo of the three of them looking happy, intending to confront Bob. Just as I was about to leave, Bob handed a white envelope to the woman and the baby and was about to leave. I quickly returned home to avoid running into Bob. And 15 minutes after I got home, Bob came home. As soon as Bob came home, I confronted him. "Hey, you were out with friends, right?" "Yeah, I was. What's up with you right after I come home?" "Is this woman also a friend?" I showed him the photo I had taken earlier. Bob's face turned pale instantly. "Oh, how did you get this photo?" "I happened to find you guys when I went out. But what is this about? Explain properly. Are you cheating?" "No, I'm not cheating." "Then what is it? And you even gave her a white envelope at the end. What's that all about?" As I continued to ask, Bob slowly answered with a guilty look. "Well, I was planning to tell you eventually, but you know I'm quite popular, right? So, before I met you, I had a few flings, and one of those girls got pregnant." I was at a loss for words at the story I heard from Bob for the first time. "I only found out after we got married. By the time I found out, she was already 7 months pregnant, and they said it was too late for an abortion. I regret ignoring her calls all this time, but she said she didn't want to get married, just wanted me to acknowledge the child. I thought it would be sad for the child to grow up without a father, so I acknowledged the child. We agreed that I would see the child once a month. She's also having a hard time financially, so I've been helping her out with money." My vision blurred as my husband's words sank in, and I dropped to my knees. "Jessica, are you okay?" My husband rushed over to me, but I brushed his hand away. "Hold on a minute, isn't it odd? She was 7 months pregnant around the time we got married. Does that mean you were involved with her while we were dating?" "I told you it's not like that. I completely cut her off once I started dating you." "But we were already seeing each other, right?" "We were, but we weren't officially dating yet, right?" I can't believe this. You were dating me with the intention of becoming a couple, yet you were involved with someone else?" "Jessica, I didn't know for sure if things would work out between us, so I didn't have a choice, okay? And I never imagined she would get pregnant." "But you were still behaving in a way that could get her pregnant, weren't you?" "Well, that's..." My husband suddenly became tongue-tied. I had never imagined my husband could be so irresponsible. I was also infuriated that he had kept silent about it for a whole year after our marriage. Could it be, did you say you didn't need a child with me because you already had one? At my words, my husband jerked and then gave a bitter laugh. "No, I was planning to have children with you eventually. But as I said earlier, I've been helping her out financially every month. If we had a baby, I don't know what you'd do about work, right? It would be really hard financially, so I thought I'd wait until I got a little more raise before having a baby with you." At this point, I was more dumbfounded than angry at my husband's words. "You should tell your mother about it." "What? Isn't it obvious? She's always nagging me about having children, and you always pretend not to know, or talk as if I don't want children." "No, I can't possibly tell my parents. They wouldn't understand why I have a child with another woman while I'm married to you." "What's that? Isn't that just being selfish? So I was forced to go along with your selfishness and made to feel bad?" What are you talking about? Are you saying you don't like being with my family? I'm not saying that at all. I just want to say that even though I shouldn't be blamed, I was constantly blamed because of you. I'm not saying I don't like my mother-in-law. What's with your attitude? I've been apologizing, haven't I? And yet you're complaining. Besides, Jessica, you're lucky to be married to a high-spec guy like me. And you're complaining just because I have a child. It's not a small matter. That's it. It's pointless to talk to you anymore. I need to think about a lot of things for the future, so let me go back to my parents' house for a while. Excuse me? What is this all about? How can you even think like that? Isn't it a given that my wife would accept everything about her husband? I was dumbfounded by my husband's words. How could he expect me, just because I'm his wife, to accept something so significant so easily, including the existence of a child he had kept hidden? I was also furious that he had not told his parents about his illegitimate child and, despite being the cause, had made me out to be the villain in front of my mother-in-law. Do you really think being a wife means accepting everything? Anyway, I'm going back to my parents' house. Maybe you should take some time to cool down and think about things while I'm gone. As I said this and started to stand up, he got up before me, went to our bedroom to fetch something, and threw it at me. If that's the case, don't ever come back home. You're not my wife if you can't accept all of me. Here's the divorce papers. Look, they're already filled out. Take them and leave right away. Yes, my husband had thrown the divorce papers at me. You filled them out already. What does that mean? I could understand if he was suggesting a divorce, but having them already filled out meant that he had prepared them in advance. I couldn't believe it and asked him. Then he answered with a sarcastic laugh. You never know what life will throw at you, so it's best to be prepared for anything, right? I mean, I liked your face, but if you can't accept all of me, then I don't need you anymore. Fortunately, there are plenty of women who want to marry a guy like me. I just need to choose a good one from among them. In other words, I have plenty of options for a wife. His words made my blood boil. I wanted to think about everything, including the hidden child, but he was saying that if I couldn't accept it now, he didn't need me and there were plenty of replacements for me. It was only natural to be angry about being treated like this. I clenched the divorce papers and glared at them. I never thought you could be such a jerk. I'll grant your wish and divorce you. I'll collect my stuff when you're not around. We probably won't see each other ever again. Goodbye. With that, I stormed out of the house, filled out the divorce papers right away, and submitted them to the city hall. But I wasn't satisfied with just divorcing him. As soon as I got back to my parents' house, I reported everything to my father. The next day, I took a day off from work to collect my belongings. I thought I had a happy marriage, and I felt regretful and shed tears knowing I married to such a man. But I considered myself lucky to have broken up with him before spending many years together. I wiped away my tears and switched my mindset. Just as I finished packing and the delivery service came to pick up my stuff, my ex-husband called. Hello? Jessica, I was wrong. Forgive me. My ex-husband started apologizing as soon as I answered the phone. I smirked at the sound of his voice. No way, I can't forgive you. Besides, weren't you the one who wanted the divorce? I just did what you wanted. No, that was just, I really regret it. You haven't submitted the divorce papers yet, right? Of course I submitted it. You're the one who gave it to me. What? Then let's get married again. I can't live without you, Jessica. I almost laughed at my ex-husband's weak voice. It seemed that my report to my father yesterday had put my ex-husband in a difficult situation, and for good reason. My father is an executive at a major client of my ex-husband's company. In the heat of the moment, my ex-husband seemed to have completely forgotten this and presented me with the divorce papers yesterday. However, I was glad that I was able to make my ex-husband suffer. Did you lose your contract with the major client? That's unfortunate, especially for an ace of the sales department to make such a blunder. It'll be interesting to see how you handle this. No, that's why I want to start over with you. There are plenty of replacements for me, right? You should try to find one. Saying that, I hung up the phone and smiled broadly. According to a story I heard from my father later, my ex-husband was demoted as a result of his responsibility for losing the contract with the major client. I think it's better than being fired, but his company is not doing well due to his actions, so he seems to be viewed quite unfavorably at his new post. My ex-husband told my in-laws about his illegitimate child, and at first they were happy and tried to remarry him to the woman who is the child's mother. However, because the woman was very poor, they refused to allow the remarriage, and my ex-husband contacted me again wanting to get back together with me. Of course, I refused. Who would happily return to such a mother-in-law and ex-husband? On the other hand, after divorcing my husband, I moved back to my parents' house and continued to work. I recently secured a contract with a major client, and my work is going quite well. While hoping to meet a wonderful person someday, I am currently focusing on my job.